All right, people, it is October 2nd, 2024. This is the Rubin Report. I'm Dave Rubin. We are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, and Locals as always. Join us for a post-game show, rubinreport.locals.com. And as I say every now and again, sometimes a show just writes itself. And that is exactly what today's show did, because there is so much going on in the world yesterday. Right now, well, an awful lot going on yesterday that leads us to today. But yesterday, between almost World War III starting, and then the VP debate, and now there's this longshoreman thing. This is all to the backdrop of this horrific hurricane that has decimated North Carolina. There is just a lot going on. Obviously, the last couple of days I've been traveling. I was at this Rescue the Republic event in DC on Sunday, which really was just wonderful. I was joking with everybody there that it felt in some ways like my life's work was almost complete to get this crazy mix of people, from Jordan Peterson to RFK and Russell Brand and Tulsi Gabbard, this wide swath of people all together with people in MAGA hats, trying to find some solutions, like a very unlikely alliance of people trying to find some solutions to all of the problems. So I want to sort of frame today's show around the Rescue the Republic event and then get to all of the things, you know, that World War III thing that almost started and the debate. We'll get to all of that sort of sandwiched in the middle. So real quick, I just want to show you about a minute and a half recap of the Rescue the Republic event from DC this past weekend.
All right, here we go again.
There really is something beyond politics. Everyone's talking about the political alliance and all that,
Yes.
but you and Jordan, to me, just did something that is very different than the political part of this thing.
Guys, thank you very much for coming out. This is just the beginning of what's going to be a great day.
There is only one choice in this election, and it's Donald Trump.
We live in a world where if you have an opinion or even want to question what the status quo opinions are, it's cancellation, 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 cancellation.
In the 60s and 70s, the Democrat Party were the party of free speech and civil rights and tossing out all these great heroes, and now they're about oppression and control.
We want this nation healed and unified, and we need leadership like Bobby Kennedy, like President Trump.
The reality is that maybe people don't like President Trump's language or how he says things or his personality or his style, but they can't deny if they just compare the facts.
Yeah.
He believes in the Constitution.
Tell me what happens on November 6th.
The fate of this nation is really determined.
Let's make America healthy again. Why not, right? Thank you.
It's really been an incredible day representing the wide tent thing that I have been yammering on about for years, for battling between politicians who don't want to let go of power. It's really been an unbelievable day with Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand and RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and Brett Weinstein and a whole slew of people. And we shall see. I think we got a chance.
Okay, so that's just sort of the frame for today's show, and we'll close with a bit more from the event. But I do want to mention real quick that one of the people that you maybe didn't fully recognize there, because he's usually in a bit more makeup or in a superhero outfit, is Zachary Levi, who is Shazam, and he was in Mrs. Maisel and a million other things. This is a guy who just a few days ago had his sort of coming out. You know, everyone talks about the why I left the left, and the moment you kind of come out and sort of start saying what you think. Well, a few days ago, he went on stage with RFK, who's apparently he's been friends with for quite some time, and Tulsi, and said, hey, I am not a woke progressive nutbag in essence, and I believe in free speech and all of these things. He's getting all sorts of pushback from the usuals in Hollywood and everything else. But it's just great to see all of these people. I mean, Ron Johnson, hardcore Republican senator, and Tulsi Gabbard together. Like, there's something a-brewing. But okay, let's put that aside for just a moment and talk about the election, because last night was the VP debate. And I have to say, since I tweeted it out right before the debate, you know, my feelings are sort of like, if you don't know what you're going to do at this point, you are seriously, seriously confused. Like, how many people in America are still really on the fence? There might be people who say they don't want to say it yet. You know, I don't know, I'll decide right before the election. I'll decide that day. But like, pretty much everyone knows. So it's not as if there's a huge amount of movement. So a lot of this is sort of racehorse politics, but the debate really did. It ended up being, I think, something special because JD Vance just shined. I mean, he showed what a post-Donald Trump MAGA wide tent Republican movement could look like. And Tim Walz, and I'll try to give the devil his due, he wasn't terrible. He's actually better than Kamala. He seems to believe what he says, at least, but he was not great. Anyway, let's start with this clip. This is JD making a good point that not only did Walz have to kind of lie about Trump's record, but then he kind of has to lie about Kamala's record as well.
Honestly, Tim, I think you got a tough job here because you've got to play whack-a-mole. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver rising take-home pay, which of course he did. You've got to pretend that Donald Trump didn't deliver lower inflation, which of course he did. And then you simultaneously got to defend Kamala Harris's atrocious economic record, which has made gas, groceries, and housing unaffordable for American citizens. I was raised by a woman who would sometimes go into medical debt so that she could put food on the table in our household. I know what it's like to not be able to afford the things that you need to afford. We can do so much better. To all of you watching, we can get back to an America that's affordable again. We just got to get back to common sense economic principles. And what she's actually done instead is drive the cost of food higher by 25%, drive the cost of housing higher by about 60%. Open the American southern border and make middle-class life unaffordable for a large number of Americans. If Kamala Harris has such great plans for how to address middle-class problems, then she ought to do them now. Not when asking for a promotion, but in the job the American people gave her 3.5 years ago. And the fact that she isn't tells you a lot about how much you can trust her actual plans.
Yeah, that's the real point. That if Kamala's got all of these great ideas, and as Joe Biden said on The View last week, Kamala's basically been doing all of this stuff. There's nothing I couldn't do that she couldn't do. Well, then why haven't they done these things? So that was the meat of it, but the optics of the thing. I mean, JD, he's lost a little weight. He was focused. He was smiling. He kept doing that little Jim thing from The Office to the camera, right? Like he just sort of mastered the TV portion of it. He was calm. He was pleasant. There were a lot of pleasantries between the two of them, which we usually don't see in debates anymore. That was sort of interesting. And Tim Walz was fidgeting and a little confused about things. He was extremely nervous right up front. Did kind of hit his stride, I would say, a bit after that. But as always, what these things come down to is how does the media frame it and what work does the media do for the Democrats during the debate themselves. So the moderators were not horrific. It wasn't as bad as the last 3-on-1 that we saw, but it's very clear that they're just Democrat activists. Here they are. Here's JD fact-checking the fact-checking moderators.
And just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status, temporary protected status.
Well, Margaret, but
thank you, Senator. We have so much to get to.
Margaret, I think it's important because
we're going to turn out of the economy. Thank
Margaret,
you.
The rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check, and since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So there's an application called the CBP One app, where you can go on as an illegal migrant, apply for asylum or apply for parole, and be granted legal status at the wave of a Kamala Harris open border wand. That is not a person coming in, applying for a green card and waiting for 10 years. That is the facilitation of illegal immigration, Margaret, by our own
Thank you, Senator, for describing the legal process. We have so much to get to, Senator.
Those laws have been on the books since 1990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
The CBP One app has not been on the books since 1990. It's something that Kamala Harris created, Margaret.
Gentlemen, the audience can't hear you because your mics are cut.
All right, first off, Margaret over there in the pink, like that's a robot woman. I'm pretty sure she's not a real person. Like why are they just so damn stiff and unhuman? Like that's just number one. Number two, JD made a good point. He probably should have hit it a little bit harder. We agreed to a certain set of rules that you will not fact check. And now you're fact checking me, so I'm gonna fact check you. And as he did it, and as Robot Woman in the pink realized that, we're getting fact check here, then the other one, I think it was the other one that pressed the button to actually silence the guy. But if you want a little actual truth as to the immigration situation, the illegal immigration situation, the refugee situation in Minnesota, where he is the governor, how about Tim Walz himself explaining it?
We have more refugees per capita than any other state. That's not just morally a good thing. It's our economic and cultural future. This beautiful diversity we see out in Worthington when I'm there, you see 50 languages spoken in the school.
How is it good? Well, first off, first he's now admitting that they have more refugees than anywhere else. How is that morally a good thing if refugees, illegals are coming? Why is diversity in and of itself just a good thing? Why is it a good thing to have a school where 50 languages are spoken? That sounds completely insane. I'm fairly certain at the school I grew up in, there was pretty much one language spoken. It was English, and most of us understood it and were able to communicate with each other. But everything they say is designed to confuse you. Somehow diversity in and of itself is just good. Somehow a gajillion languages being spoken are just good. It's great to speak a lot of languages. It's nice to know people that come from other cultures and speak different languages and all that, but it's not good in and of itself, right? It just is not. So there you have the actual truth when Tim Walz is telling it on that C-SPAN video we just showed you versus the way it was framed in the media last night, and good job on JD for calling out, et cetera. This was probably Tim Walz's kind of craziest moment. He had a lot of weird, he has this sort of weird deer in the headlights look constantly, and he definitely was nervous up front. But again, he did get better as it went on. But then there's been this whole sort of kerfuffle around where he was during Tiananmen Square, and they asked him about that, and good God, here we go.
You said you were in Hong Kong during the deadly Tiananmen Square protests in the spring of 1989. But Minnesota Public Radio and other media outlets are reporting that you actually didn't travel to Asia until August of that year. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, well, and to the folks out there who didn't get at the top of this, look, I grew up in small rural Nebraska, town of 400, town that you rode your bike with your buddies till the streetlights come on, and I'm proud of that service. I joined the National Guard at 17, worked on family farms, and then I used the GI Bill to become a teacher, passionate about it, a young teacher. My first year out, I got the opportunity in the summer of '89 to travel to China. 35 years ago, be able to do that. I came back home and then started a program to take young people there. I have poured my heart into my community. I've tried to do the best I can, but I've not been perfect. And I'm a knucklehead at times, but it's always been about that. Many times I will talk a lot. I will get caught up in the rhetoric. But being there, the impact it made, the difference it made in my life, I learned a lot about China.
Governor, just to follow up on that, the question was, can you explain the discrepancy?
All I said on this was I got there that summer and misspoke on this. So I will just, that's what I've said. So I was in Hong Kong and China during the democracy protests went in. And from that, I learned a lot of what needed to be in governance.
Thank you, Governor.
I will give Pink Lady credit there for following up right there. Like, excuse me, sir, I don't know what you're talking about riding a bike in Nebraska and something. Were you there? It's like, why do these people lie about everything? Why do they lie about things that are so easily debunked? And why? He knows that question is most likely coming. So instead of giving that insane story about the GI Bill and everything else and the kids, the basketball teams that he was taking to China and everything else, which probably was just fine and it was probably good work, right? I won't even besmirch him on that stuff. It's like, why didn't he just say, you know what? I just got a little ahead of my skis on this thing. I just said something that wasn't true. I was there a little bit before and, whatever. But instead, I'm a knucklehead and I rode a bike when I was a kid. It's all so pathetic. But again, it's good because more and more people are seeing through some of that stuff. We'll get to some of the media reaction because you guys know it's very rarely, a debate is very rarely about what actually was said. It's about how the media then launders the lies or runs cover for the Dems or tries to, push aside the good stuff that a Republican did. So we'll get to that in just a second, but let me talk to you about Bunker Life. Cybercrime has become the third largest economy in the world, trailing in size only to the US and China. Cybercriminals target people and businesses by exploiting vulnerabilities in the everyday tools we use like email, social media messengers, free cloud storage, as well as weak passwords. Isn't anyone protecting we the people? Yes, the people at Bunker are. Bunker's an affordable, all-in-one app protecting you against identity theft, cybercrime, and surveillance. Bunker includes patent-pending secure messaging, easy-to-use password management, and secure cloud storage. Why pay for several different applications when you can protect yourself with Bunker for $12 annually? Bunker is owned and operated by security professionals with a long history of protecting the public against cyber criminals and surveillance. Bunker believes people deserve to be empowered to focus on what matters most to them, enjoying themselves while having privacy and security built into their day-to-day lives. There has never been a more important time than right now to protect yourself and the people you care about. So for a limited time, Bunker is offering a 1-year free trial for you and all your friends and family when you sign up today. Download Bunker from the App Store or Play Store using offer code Rubin to get the first year free. Okay, so you know I'm always interested in those quote-unquote reliable sources, the third rail, the group of people who are supposed to tell us the truth and make sure that politicians aren't lying, the people who are supposed to hold them to account, who rarely do such a thing. But every now and again, a debate is so clear, much like the Trump-Biden debate a couple months back, it's so clear who won and who lost that they can't really lie about it, because it would just be like kicking you in the nuts. And as a general rule, people don't like being kicked in the nuts. Everyone here nodded on that. So here's a little compilation of some of the post-game coverage where they could not kick you directly in the nuts.
There is no doubt in my mind, however Governor Walz did in terms of sincerity, that Vance won this debate.
Does Governor Walz have a problem with the truth? No.
They were talking at one point, Vance wanted to correct something about how Haitians got into this country. And he was right, and the moderators wouldn't let him correct it. It's very interesting.
But at the beginning, the two issues driving the campaign right now are Harris has a big deficit on the economy, Harris has a big deficit on immigration, and Republicans were happy tonight and Democrats a little bit nervous that on those two issues, Vance carried it.
JD Vance is much more experienced at this, at public speaking, at defending himself, at pivoting.
It's the audacity. I agree with you that we're in year 9 and no one knows how to cover the audacity. The audacity is that someone should have said, stop it, stop. Are you effing kidding me? And they should have dropped that F-bomb, right? I mean, they should have just, this is a debate. This may be the only chance people have to see the difference.
I think there was a clear lack of preparation and execution here on Walz's part.
I think actually it's the opposite. I think he had too much preparation.
Maybe, yeah.
He had so many lines that he was clearly trying to say that he didn't listen and said when JD Vance said one of the many things he really hit Kamala Harris on, not Tim Walz, but Kamala Harris, he didn't respond because he clearly had things in his mind.
Okay, so you could very clearly see just in that quick compilation that the media really couldn't lie that much about it. I'm not exactly sure what Nicole Wallace was saying there on MSNBC. We'll have more on them in just a second. But even there, right at the end with Lindsay Davis and Dana Bash, he underprepared. No, he overprepared. Like they were just trying to figure out how can we spin this so that it wasn't so bad for Walz, but it was. Now, I mentioned being kicked in the nuts. Here's a woman who has no interest in nuts whatsoever, Rachel Maddow.
I think the big picture takeaway from this is that one of these candidates is much slicker than the other, is a much more practiced kind of professional debate style speaker, and the other candidate won. There was one bad moment for Tim Walz in this debate where he got mixed up and embarrassed in answering a question about exactly what month he had been in China in relation to the Tiananmen Square protest. But then on guns, on January 6th, on Obamacare, on the economy, on blaming everything on the border, back again on healthcare, on abortion, on every issue on substance, JD Vance was very polished and very slick, and Tim Walz beat him on all the substantive points. At least that was my take on it.
There's no doubt that despite the fact, if you look at the numbers, Walz won this debate. If you look at the CNN polling, it shows Vance a slight advantage, but in terms of favorability, again, his favorability rating went up 59%. Unfavorable 22%, Vance 41%, and 44.
All right, so you get that's a perfect example of why I always call it the televised mental institution. For Rachel Maddow, for that to be her takeaway, that no, Vance only gets credit for being slick and polished. Also, the implication is somehow that Tim Walz is just like this bumbling nobody who came out of nowhere and got on stage. The guy has been governor. The guy has been, he was a congressman for, I think, at least a decade. Like, the guy's been around the block. He's been in a gajillion debates. So to imply that, oh, JD is the slick debater who's been around forever doing all that stuff. JD's 40 years old. I've got 8 years on the freaking guy. So that was just nonsense. And then, of course, what she means is I agree with Tim Walz on all of the issues. Not that he won on all the issues. He just says what I like. But the truth is, between the previous clip that we showed you where the mainstream media really outside of MSNBC really couldn't run cover, and virtually everyone online, and you just watching this, I just don't know how. Look, I get it. I have my own prejudices as it comes to this stuff. I have my own views, all of that stuff. I just don't know how you could be even roughly approximately close to anything like objective and say that Tim Walz won that. I think this was the best meme that I saw about the entire thing right now. This is from I don't even know who this person is, but I thought this was great. Mia Cathell wrote, quote, "Get me that Jew from Pennsylvania now." And for those of you listening on the audio podcast, it's a picture of Kamala looking like she's like getting in somebody's face and yelling at them. The implication like, oh, this thing is not going well with this Tim Walz guy. He is not inspiring anybody. Maybe we should have chosen the successful governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, but oh no, we didn't do that because the base of our party are a bunch of Jew-hating whack jobs. Speaking of Jew-hating whack jobs, we're going to talk about the mullahs and Ayatollah of Iran in just a second. But first, a word from Preserve Gold. We're living in unpredictable times with digital currencies on the rise, a whopping $35 trillion in national debt, and inflation still at a 40-year high. For these reasons and more, the Big Short traders, known for their successful bet against the housing market back in 2008, are warning that Americans don't have enough gold in their portfolios. Their advice comes amid massive central bank gold buying taking place globally and spiraling $35 trillion national debt lingering across the U.S. That's why you should strongly consider physical gold and silver to help protect your retirement accounts like IRAs and 401ks. Preserve Gold is giving away a no-cost, no-obligation free wealth protection guide that contains 25-plus pages of detailed information and insights. Learn how you can put physical gold and silver into an IRA or 401k and even purchase precious metals for delivery directly to your home. All you need to do is text the word Dave to 50505. Preserve Gold has hundreds of 5-star reviews and millions of dollars in trusted transactions with satisfied clients. As an exclusive offer to my viewers, in addition to their free guide, you can also get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. Just text Dave to 50505 to receive this exclusive offer. So in case you were underground yesterday, which the mullahs of Iran probably are today, World War III almost started. Yes, the Islamic Republic of Iran officially, in essence, declared war on Israel. It's been at war with Israel through its proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas and the Houthi. Like, they've been at war basically since October 7th. The day after October 7th, October 8th, which is almost a year ago, just in a couple days, Hezbollah started shooting rockets into Israel. They've shot about 8,000 rockets into Israel. So you might consider that war, right? If one rocket was shot from Montreal into Detroit, we might think that war has begun. But anyway, hundreds of ballistic missiles were shot into Israel yesterday from Iran. We've got some info here from the Daily Wire. The Islamic Republic of Iran fired scores of ballistic missiles at Israel on Tuesday night, sending the entire country running for bomb shelters. All Israeli civilians are in bomb shelters as rockets from Iran are fired at Israel. The Israel Defense Forces said in a statement, approximately 10 million civilians are the target of Iranian projectiles. Various reports pinned the number of ballistic missiles fired from inside Iran at Israel during the first wave of the attack, approximately 100. It appears that Iran fired another 100 missiles in a second wave. So yes, literally the 10 million people, that's how many people are in Israel. Every single one of them was in a bomb shelter. Not only did they create the Iron Dome to stop rockets from coming in, but they also, every house that is built, every apartment building that is built, they build bomb shelters for exactly this. So just try to imagine. I mean, try to imagine if every single American was in a bomb shelter yesterday and a foreign country was firing ballistic missiles at us. Not only what we would do, but just what that would be like. You got your kids, you got your parents, you got your other loved ones. Just try to imagine what that would be like. Here's some footage of the missiles hitting Israel. Okay, so it's really extraordinary what they do with the Iron Dome. And now they're working, I think they're calling it David Sling. I mean, they're literally working on a laser probably by next year that's going to shoot these things out of the sky. It's just, I mean, it's actually Star Wars. But some of the missiles that you're seeing hit, some of them did actually land in fields and in the desert and some other places. So they don't always shoot the Iron Dome rockets to intercept them if they see it's not going to, cause any major damage. Anyway, here's a quick 4-second video of the Harris-Biden administration, and that's what it is, the Harris-Biden administration reaction.
We did it. We did it, Joe.
That's a little comedy for you. I think it was 3 seconds, actually. Anyway, here is Kamala Harris reading a statement. I really want you to just try to get some of the subtext on this. So all of these missiles hit, right? And just look at her body language, the lack of presence, the reading, the text, the subtext and the text of what she's reading, and just tell me if this seems like a leader. So this is right after the rockets were hitting in Israel.
I'm clear-eyed. Iran is a destabilizing, dangerous force in the Middle East, and today's attack on Israel only further demonstrates that fact. Earlier today, I was in the Situation Room with President Biden and our national security team as we monitored the attack in real time and ensured that the protection of U.S. personnel in the region is paramount. I fully support President Biden's order for the U.S. military to shoot down Iranian missiles targeting Israel, just as we did in April. We are still assessing the impact, but initial indications are that Israel, with our assistance, was able to defeat this attack. Our joint defenses have been effective, and this operation and successful cooperation saved many innocent lives. Thank you.
Madam Vice President, how do you prevent this from spilling over to
Okay, so of course she didn't take any questions. Where the hell is Joe Biden, who we're supposed to believe is still the president of the United States? Nobody knows where he is. Also, just the way she read it, the stiltedness, the clear, it was just like, I'm reading a statement, let me make sure I don't screw up the text. That was it. That is not leadership, ladies and gentlemen. That is the reverse of leadership. Do you think that anyone feels more confident after that? And that led me, I hadn't even seen this yet, but I tweeted out as the rockets were falling, I tweeted this out. This is 100% the fault of the pathetic Biden administration. And the reasoning for that is, I am not for war. I don't want one American soldier in the Middle East or anywhere else. But when America has power and we are willing to show people, we might occasionally use it. Sort of like Donald Trump dropping the MOAB. Remember that? The mother of all bombs. Taking out Soleimani. When you do certain things to show the world, hey, don't mess with us. That's how you get peace. It's called peace through strength, right? Ronald Reagan was extremely good at this, right? Which led to the fall of the Soviet Union. But we don't have that right now. We have paper tiger words from this administration. You might remember Kamala Harris with her famous one word.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. One word. Pretty straightforward.
Meaningless dribble. Don't. Oh, well, they did, right? And now Israel is going to have to launch a significantly bigger attack. That's the laws of war. They can't have 10 million citizens living in bomb shelters every now and again, right? On top of the other attacks. And there was a terrorist attack that I think killed 7 people in Jerusalem. Like, you just can't live like that. It's not a way. So if you have bigger guns and more weapons, they're going to have to do some crazy damage to Iran right now. So just saying don't is meaningless. Peace through strength is not meaningless. Here's Peter Doocy, who is one of the few journalists we have in America, and I think he nailed her on the don't line.
It has been well documented over the last couple months that President Biden and Vice President Harris have put out the word publicly to the Ayatollah in Iran, don't. And now we know that the Ayatollah does not listen to them.
Yeah, it's just simply the truth. The Ayatollah was just like, oh, they said don't, who gives a flying F? That's the situation we are in, and it now could subsequently get much more dangerous. I mean, really think about it. You know, these 200 some odd rockets, whatever the exact number was, if any of them, if they had hit an oil refinery, if they would have hit the nuclear sites, like if they would have hit just somewhere and taken out a whole bunch of people, like we could literally be in World War III today. So think how close now, several times over the last few months, we've gotten to the precipice of absolute lunacy. Donald Trump could be dead. There were 2 assassination attempts. God only knows what the world would be like if either one of those took. Iran did this a couple months ago and it wasn't successful. This one was more dangerous. But imagine, had 5 of those things hit, strategic moments, like World War III. That's what we could have woken up to this morning. So that's what we're doing. And we have an administration that has a man who is eating lukewarm soup in the afternoon and a woman who is installed who nobody has voted for saying one word, don't. And they are doing it. This, I would say, is problematic. We will get to more on that in just a second. Let me tell you about Black Forest supplements. We're in a new era of tyranny. Agencies once meant to protect us are now weaponized against the American people. There are 200,000 armed non-DoD federal employees, more than the Marine Corps. If the government won't use force to defend borders, but will use force to collect taxes and enforce unconstitutional laws, that's called tyranny. Now, let me tell you about NMN. This isn't just another supplement, it's a game changer. A recent Harvard study showed that MNN can reduce weight, cholesterol, and even blood pressure in overweight adults. Some call it the limitless pill, claiming it can take 10 to 20 years off your body. It's like having a fountain of youth in a bottle. But of course, the FDA wants to keep it away from us. The FDA is trying to classify NMN as a drug, which would allow pharmaceutical companies to take control of it. The move isn't about safety or effectiveness. It's about cornering the market and making you dependent on costly prescriptions. We can't let that happen. We need to take control of our own health before they take it from us. I asked NMN to offer a special deal for my audience, and they agreed to buy 2, get 1 free deal for 48 hours when you go to blackforestsupplements.com/Rubin. Once again, that's blackforestsupplements.com/Rubin. This is a great opportunity to stock up on NMN before any restrictions come into play. You guys try to say NMN so many times over and over. It ain't that easy, I can tell you that much. All right, so I want to throw back to my tweet about this because I think this illustrates the point exactly. Nobody wants war, but when we have a weak America, we have a crazy world. So as I wrote there, as the rockets were falling down, this is 100% the fault of the pathetic Biden administration. Now I want to flash back to last night because the first question at the debate was about the events that took place in the Middle East, and JD Vance absolutely nailed it.
Now, to answer this particular question, we have to remember that as much as Governor Walz just accused Donald Trump of being an agent of chaos, Donald Trump actually delivered stability in the world, and he did it by establishing effective deterrence. People were afraid of stepping out of line. Iran, which launched this attack, has received over $100 billion in unfrozen assets thanks to the Kamala Harris administration. What do they use that money for? They use it to buy weapons that they're now launching against our allies, and God forbid, potentially launching against the United States as well. Donald Trump recognized that for people to fear the United States, you needed peace through strength. They needed to recognize that if they got out of line, the United States global leadership would put stability and peace back in the world. Now, you asked about a preemptive strike, Margaret, and I want to answer the question. Look, it is up to Israel what they think they need to do to keep their country safe, and we should support our allies wherever they are when they're fighting the bad guys. I think that's the right approach to take with the Israel question.
Just a right answer across the board. It's a holistic, remember that was the word of last week, it's a holistic answer, right? Peace through strength. Deterrence, not crazy saber rattling and bombing the hell out of everybody, but an actual strategy that makes sense. And then he's going, and just look what Donald Trump did. You remember Donald Trump when he moved the embassy to Jerusalem and they told us World War III was going to happen and nothing happened. Remember the Abraham Accords when a whole bunch of Arab countries signed on and said we're not going to be at war with Israel anymore, and Saudi Arabia was about to do it too before the events of October 7th. Why is it that there was no war in Ukraine under Donald Trump, but there was under Barack Obama and there is under Joe Biden? Like, these are all obvious things. So when you have a leader that people respect, that they fear a little bit, that they might go, oh shit, you know, if we kind of mess around, God only knows what this guy's going to do. That's actually how you get peace. The beauty of the internet is that you can capture things in meme form, and the N-Wokeness account that I use on the show quite often, I thought did this just perfectly. Look at this. This is the Middle East in 2020 versus the Middle East in 2024. And of course, you're seeing an image there of the Abraham Accords being signed. There was all the opportunity in the world to expand those things. And of course, the video you're seeing is the rockets hit Israel. And again, the war, and by the way, at the debate last night, the way they opened that question about Iran and Israel, they said they are on the brink of war. It's like, if 250 or so ballistic missiles hit your country, I'm pretty sure you are at war. But the simple thing here is that we were in a much better situation under Donald Trump, and everyone in the world, from Putin to the Ayatollahs to whoever else is out there that maybe ain't so great or doesn't like Western values, they like having Biden in office. It's obvious and absolutely true. And even right this moment, Donald Trump is already working on making peace throughout the world. He had a meeting with Zelensky from Ukraine, and check this out.
President Trump, have you changed your thoughts on how this war should end, what you think should be done, or do you still stand by some of the previous statements?
Well, I learned a lot, but I think I haven't changed from the standpoint that we both want to see this end, and we both want to see a fair deal made, and it's got to be fair, and I think that'll happen at the right time. I think it's going to happen. The president wants it to end, and he wants it to end as quickly as possible. He wants a fair transaction to take place, and I think, right now I'm campaigning, so right now I don't have much to do with it other than we're doing very well in terms of the campaign, and I've been saying that I believe if I win, we're going to have a very fair and I think actually rather rapid deal. It should stop, and the president wants it to stop, and I'm sure President Putin wants it to stop. And that's a good combination. So we want to have a fair deal for everybody.
What do you envision as fair?
Well, it's too early to say that. I mean, I have my own ideas, and I'm sure the president definitely has his own ideas, but it has to be fair.
You know, it's so interesting. Contrast that with the written statement that Kamala Harris kind of poorly read in that very stilted, unemotional way, right? She's just reading words off a paper, and it's just meaningless, right? It's like saying don't, and it's just utterly meaningless. Trump there, off the top of his head, basically trying to say, you know, Putin wants it to stop, this Zelensky guy wants it to stop, we want it to stop, we can make it happen kind of quickly. And then the follow-up question, well, how are you going to do it? I can't tell you that right now, and that's the truth. That's the actual truth. And Zelensky, it's interesting because Zelensky has basically been given a blank check by the Biden administration, but this war with Russia is not going well. And at the end of the day, Russia has nukes, right? So the fact that he's standing there with Trump, he's clearly seeing the writing on the wall. Holy sheep shit. This guy might be president and I might have to play ball with him and the checks might end and I might have to cut a deal. And that would get us far closer to peace than anything that that's not even the Biden administration, that this clown administration is doing. But speaking of this clown administration, they are still giving an absolutely insane amount of money to Ukraine. We don't know where the money is going. It is being spent in all sorts of crazy ways. That's in stark contrast to the money that we give Israel, which is every single penny is spent to buy American weapons. Now, you can argue that's not good. I actually think that's a perfectly fine argument and that we should reduce that. That would be absolutely fine. But with Ukraine, we're just handing them boatloads of cash. And I had Rand Paul on talking about how we have no track record. We have no tracking of this. There are no accountants. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. Well, we just gave another $2.4 billion. And well, just check out this video, which juxtaposes what we're doing for other countries compared to what we're doing to our own country, say what's going on in North Carolina right now?
I'm proud to announce a new $2.4 billion package of security assistance. We've given them all everything that we have. We're on the ground ahead of time, so we're working hard.
Are there any more resources the federal government could be giving them?
No, we have pre-planned a significant amount of it, even though they didn't ask for it yet.
So we're given another $2.4 billion. I have no idea what that number is already. It's got to be over $20 billion that we've given to Ukraine, and it's probably even way more than that. But we just figured out a way to give them another 2.4, and then there is an absolute humanitarian catastrophe happening in the United States right now, largely in North Carolina through Hurricane Helene. And no, we've got no more money. We had some stuff earmarked for them, and we've got nothing else. Like, it's absolutely psychotic. We've got a bit more about this hurricane, which was just catastrophic. This is from the Daily Wire. Helene, initially a Category 4 hurricane, brought powerful wind and torrential rain to the southeast, causing at least 91 deaths across Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Those states, as well as Alabama, have all had emergency declarations approved by President Joe Biden. Many areas were left without power and had no access to food and water as the rain caused devastating flooding, leaving hundreds of people trapped. The city of Asheville, North Carolina, and its surrounding communities were hit particularly hard by the storm, with 30 deaths already reported. FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell is expected to visit North Carolina on Monday to survey the damage. We checked this morning just before the show. The death toll is now at 133 people. I mean, it is absolutely devastating. I'm sure you guys have seen the video. I tweeted out a link to one of the places you can donate, which I donated to, which maybe we can put in the description. But I want to show you on CNN. You know, we've played a couple of videos lately of this guy, Scott Jennings, who I think is a Republican consultant, and he's always ganged up on it. It's always, you know, they have 7 of those leftist, Democrat, activist, pretend journalist types, and they always put one kind of roughly sane person. Here he is talking about the optics around Biden and Harris as this is unfolding in North Carolina.
People who need it.
I think the optics of this over the weekend for Biden and Harris have been pretty poor. I mean, North Carolina is underwater. These people are devastated and struggling. But you've got Biden at the beach and then saying, what do you want from me? I got on the phone while I was at the beach. And you've got Harris out raising money on the campaign and then taking a photo on a plane. Now, I remember George W. Bush was pilloried for having a photo taken from Air Force One. She's got a photo on a plane, and the earphones don't appear to be connected to the phone, and the paper looks like it's blank. So it looked like a stage sort of thing. I thought the optics for them were very bad.
Bush, she was.
All right, that's quite true. Can we try to grab that image real quick of Kamala on the plane with the blank paper and the earbuds not connected to her phone? It's kind of funny if you haven't seen it. But yes, Biden was on the beach. She's out there fundraising. So who is in charge? As always, we simply do not know. But there's another guy that's running for president that's actually doing stuff right now to help the people of North Carolina. Check this out from Elon Musk. Since the Hurricane Helene disaster, SpaceX has sent as many Starlink terminals as possible to help areas in need. Earlier today, Donald Trump alerted me to additional people who need Starlink internet in North Carolina. We are sending them terminals right away. Not only is he sending them Starlink terminals, as I understand it, he's not charging them for it. He's linking it for free, all of those things. Here's Donald Trump thanking Elon Musk for what he's doing while the federal government is largely MIA.
Hurricane Helene yesterday, I was in Georgia to survey the terrible damage from the storm. It was terrible. And Georgia was hit very, very hard. They're doing a great job. Governor's doing a great job. Everybody, they're all working together. And we helped them out a little bit. In North Carolina, the biggest problem seems to be like zero communication. The poles are all down. The wires are all down. And they asked me whether or not I could help with Starlink. It's another genius concept of Elon Musk, and I called Elon, and they were having a hard time getting it. It's a hot thing, and Elon immediately got involved, and we have the most incredible that they did in one day. They got tremendous communication. They went from literally no communication to tremendous. So I want to thank Elon Musk for what he's done in North Carolina. A little bit help in Georgia, too, where they had some areas that had a hard time with communication. He hooked it up to the satellites, which he feels very confident in doing. He likes satellites, he likes rocket ships, satellites, and there's nobody better. He's something. He's a piece of work, I'll tell you.
Look, you guys know this. Elon and Trump have had a very kind of back and forth history, like fighting publicly and making fun of each other and all of that stuff, but they've now come together. It's part of that rescue the republic situation that I've been talking about as part of that wide tent thing. But there's Donald Trump, who's not president right now, basically being like, wait, there's no communication in North Carolina. Can we fix this? And then here's the Renaissance man of our time, Elon Musk, like, yes, I will send Starlinks down there and we will get these people reconnected. It's rather extraordinary. And as an interesting backdrop to this, you might want to note that in 2023, the Biden-Harris FCC revoked $900 million in funding to Starlink. Now, we can discuss whether there should be government subsidies for some of these things and all about tax breaks and everything else. But Starlink right now, in a horrific disaster area in our country that is not being treated properly by the federal government, Starlink has now become unbelievably important to get these people back online, literally and figuratively. So they cut $900 million from Starlink, but now the Biden administration is, going to use Starlink.
We're also very focused on restoring communications capabilities. FEMA, the FCC, and private telecommunications providers are working together to help restore temporary communications as quickly as possible by establishing temporary cell sites and allowing for roaming where possible, where a resident can connect to any network available, even if they aren't subscribed to that network. Today, FEMA will install 30 Starlink receivers in Western North Carolina to provide immediate connectivity for those in greatest need.
Okay, again, we can discuss whether the government should have subsidies for these things and everything else, right? The Democrat government loves subsidies for all of these green projects that usually fail, solar panels and the Ford, what was the Ford electric car that failed, the Volt? So we can have some debate about whether the government should be involved in this at all. But the point is they cut funding to the guy and now they're basically like, help us because we don't know what we are doing. So now I want to shift gears altogether because there is another major, major story happening right now. And I fear this is going to have massive repercussions post-election because we won't see the repercussions of it for the next couple of weeks. But the situation involving the longshoremen, the international longshoremen strike is starting to go hot right now. And this could affect virtually every good that we get and our entire supply chain in the country. So we're going to start by showing you, this is president of the International Longshoremen's Association. His name is Harold Daggett, threatening a strike unless his workers get more pay. And then we'll explain a bit on the other side.
These people today don't know what a strike is. Right. When my men hit the streets from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the companies money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack here. First off, Connor made the point that on his shirt there, it says a force to be reckoned with. And this guy, like him or not, clearly is a force to be reckoned with. You know, what's interesting about that video, and then we'll get into the specifics, is we never see anyone doing anything real anymore. When I just showed you the video of don't, and it's meaningless, don't. No one uses real power anymore. Trump's going to try to use real power, right? But we don't see people using real power. Whether I agree with him or not here, and again, we'll get to that in just a second, seeing someone exert power is kind of interesting, isn't it? And he has like sort of a mafia way of speaking. We'll shut you down. You see everything that's going to happen. It's not going to happen overnight, but okay. And then the car salesman can't sell the cars and all that stuff. But it's actually real, what he's saying. Okay, but basically every good that we get from out of this country gets to our shores, and then his guys have to unload it and make sure that the stuff gets there, whether it's your shoes or your cars or your fruit or whatever else. So if these guys went on strike, the repercussions throughout the economy over the course, it wouldn't just happen overnight, right? There's a certain amount of inventory that are at car lots right now. There's a certain amount of inventory at your supermarket and at Foot Locker. But over time, especially we're rolling into the Christmas season, this could be absolutely devastating to our economy and the entire country. So the question is, okay, so he's exerting real power, and it's kind of interesting watching somebody do that. So what is it that he's demanding? Well, Elon Musk asked that question on Twitter. He said, what is he demanding? And the answer is he wants a 77% pay raise over the next 6 years and a ban on automation at the port so his men don't lose their jobs. Elon responded and said, from what current compensation? And the answer to that looks like the average salary for a longshoreman at the ILA is in the range of 52 to 56K per year. So, okay, so basically what this is about is that he wants his guys to make more money. That's an honorable position. He feels his guys are working hard. It's an important job, obviously. Nobody's denying that. Now, but the real issue here is the second part of what that response to Elon was, which is that automation is replacing everybody. industries go for a certain period and then things change. The printing press is born, like things start changing. We automate things, we bring in computers, we bring in robots, we bring in AI. It's happening whether we like it or not. And he's trying to guarantee that his guys will be taken care of in an industry. They have jobs that are dying. That's just the truth. It's not, what would you say? It's not fair, I suppose, but it is just the truth that the jobs that these guys do can now be done by robots. We'll show you something on that in just a second from China. And he's trying to ensure that his guys will get a little bit more money right now, but that's not really what it's about. He's trying to ensure that they will have jobs in a couple years. Again, it's honorable. He's fighting for his people and he's exerting power to do it, but this could literally cripple the entire United States. Here's a bit more info on Harold Daggett himself. Harold Daggett earned $728,000 last year from the ILA, plus $173,000 as president of a local union branch. He drives a Bentley and recently sold his 76-foot yacht called Obsession. So that's just a little bit of information about him. You know me, I'm a capitalist. I believe he's got every right to earn whatever it is he can make and all that. But as he's fighting for this, sort of 52 to 56, maybe we can get it to 60 grand increase to his guys, he's raking in a lot of dough. It is worth noting. Vivek Ramaswamy had a good analysis of this, so I think this will give you a, once again, holistic view on what's going on here. As the main union of East Coast dock workers goes to strike, billions of dollars of goods will be stranded in major ports like New York, New Jersey, and Houston. The ILA, whose boss took over $900K last year from union dues, is now backed by President Biden in the labor dispute, even though it may cost the economy up to $5 billion a day. Biden's decision to back the union bosses means that the supposedly neutral referees in the National Labor Relations Board, a creature of the administrative state, have already picked sides to the detriment of American workers and consumers. According to the World Bank's 2023 Container Port Performance Index, which measures efficiency, the U.S. does not have a single port that is ranked in the top 50 globally. This is no coincidence. While ports from the Netherlands to Australia work to automate to great success, union contracts limit the ability of ports to adopt technology that enhances efficiency. This isn't new. Back in the 1950s, leaders in the same union opposed containerization, a major innovation that ushered in an era of global trade, reduced the cost to unload a boat from about $6 a ton to 16 cents a ton, and made dock workers' jobs safer too. Ludism isn't unique to the dock workers' unions. Recall that the Hollywood strikes over streaming technology in 2023 that have left a negative impact on the industry. Unemployment in the film and TV industry is now roughly 3 times the national average. Actual technological advances can enhance the well-being of American workers or consumers, but union bosses' efforts to coddle workers by limiting innovation leaves the whole country worse off as a result. And the National Labor Relations Board is ultimately responsible for coddling union bosses who send their workers on strike. The right answer is the same one we need for the rest of the nanny state: shut it down. Okay, so the bumper sticker version of that is the Biden administration is backing the union, and as Vivek is correctly pointing out, this is not that these guys are bad guys. It's not even that the union boss is a bad guy. Like, I'm rewatching Sopranos right now. I like tough guys. I like mafia stuff. I like that attitude, and I like seeing someone exert power. But what this is not about, just the few extra dollars we're going to pay these guys or whether they deserve it. The jobs are changing. The industry is changing. We cannot stop it. So in essence, it's the swamp, it's the deep state that is about to cripple the entire country. So now I will give you the perfect example of what's going on here. When Vivek talks about how our ports are not ranked in any of the top 50 and these are just not efficient anymore and there's a much better way to do it, here's Guangzhou, China. Check out their ports. Okay, let me be clear about something. I'm not sitting here to tell you China's great. Their human rights record is absolutely horrible. Their people do not have the freedoms we have and everything else. I'm showing you there that in this specific case of what automation and technology and AI is doing, what you're seeing there are trucks that there are no humans in those trucks. And that's what this is really about. He's fighting for his guys' jobs. Again, that is an honorable position. These people have families, right? They have homes, they have mortgages, car payments, all of the stuff that we all have. And then there's this other thing that is happening. And we have to figure out how to arbitrage those two positions, right? But we are not going to do it by just digging in and giving them whatever they want at the expense of technology that's coming one way or another, or we will fall behind as a nation. Maybe Vivek's point is that we already have. That is what this is really about. So I'm just telling you guys, pay attention to this story. Otherwise, Christmas and the holiday season is going to look extremely, extremely different than in years past in America. So I want to do one more thing before we wrap today, which is that we've talked about some serious stuff today, right? There was the stark contrast in the debate, obviously, so that's all about the election and what genuinely is the most important election of my lifetime. There is a war happening in the Middle East, whether they want to call it a war or not. There is the fallout now of this unbelievably horrible hurricane that is mostly affecting people in North Carolina. There's what's going on in Russia, Ukraine. Now I just laid out this port situation. So what is the answer to all of this? Well, the only way we can get to an honest answer is if we are able to communicate freely with each other. And one of the main driving points of the Rescue the Republic event was that free speech is genuinely on the chopping block right now. We have seen so many instances, whether it's the Biden administration during COVID or whether it's things that Kamala has said about the First Amendment or Tim Walz saying that hate speech is not part of the First Amendment, or just the entire swath of things that you know, they are coming for it. They are coming for it. And if we can't honestly discuss this stuff, then we are really screwed. So now I want to just dive into a little bit of the latest in the free speech wars. Here's John Kerry at the WEF explaining that the First Amendment's a bit of a problem.
So tough. Everybody's wrestling with that right now. And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact are kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people go and that people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years I've been involved in this. And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera.
Can you believe it? You guys might self-select the information and make decisions for yourselves. I know John Kerry apparently really cares about the environment, but he's turning into a tree, and it's very, very weird. I posted that picture of the Ent, that's what they're called in Lord of the Rings. People were very upset, like I threw the Ents under the bus, these tree people, by comparing them to John Kerry, so I apologize for that. But you can see it, John Kerry, who wanted to be president of the United States, he views the First Amendment as a problem. Right? The idea that we can't get consensus, that the referees have been taking out. Look, in a utopian world, it would be nice if we had grand consensus on things. It would be nice. But they want to do it by silencing a certain set of people rather than battling it out and showing what good ideas do and the results thereof. That's the plan that they are on. And that is a huge problem. It's completely taken over the Democrat Party, and it absolutely is now part of the globalist agenda. So let's go back to the debate last night, because JD shredded Tim Walz for his confusion, let's say, around the First Amendment.
But you guys attack us for not believing in democracy. The most sacred right under the United States democracy is the First Amendment. You yourself have said there's no First Amendment right to misinformation. Kamala Harris wants to use the power of government.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation.
And big tech to silence people from speaking their minds. That is a threat to democracy that will long outlive this present political moment. I would like Democrats and Republicans to both reject censorship. Let's persuade one another. Let's argue about ideas, and then let's come together afterwards.
You can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
That's the test. That's the Supreme Court test. Tim, fire in a crowded theater. You guys wanted to kick people off of Facebook for saying that toddlers shouldn't wear masks.
Senator, the governor does have the floor.
Fire in a crowded theater.
Senator, the governor does have the floor. Okay, there's a whole bunch there. First off, just to be absolutely clear, you can yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't do it with the intent to do harm. That is the difference. Also, Tim Walz did say that we have no right to misinformation. Misinformation is absolutely protected under the First Amendment. So, for example, when Joe Biden said these vaccines work, you won't get nor transmit COVID, that was a lie. That was misinformation, but he shouldn't be in jail for it. Or he, as maybe the president of the United States that was helping push forward the vaccines into everybody's arms, maybe he should be in jail for it. But you, as a free citizen, should not be in jail for misinformation. And of course, these are the prime purveyors of misinformation. So he says fire in a crowded theater or hate speech. That is so absolutely insane. The Supreme Court has said there is no such thing as hate speech. Yes, you cannot violently threat somebody. You can't gin up a crowd to go kill that person right there, right? That you can't do. That is not protected. And the very, very strict things we have around libel and slander. But you are allowed to say mean things. Look at my Twitter feed. Not everybody loves me, guys, and it's okay. I don't want to jail these people. But that really, and JD just did it so beautifully and kindly and pleasantly. Let's battle it out, or none of the rest of this stuff is going to matter. Because once we stop battling it out, then they will just be in control of us. And guess what? They're not that eager to give up that power. RFK at the Rescue the Republic rally.
And this week, Hillary Clinton, Tim Walz, and Kamala Harris all said the same thing. They said that if the Democrats get back into office, that they are going to make sure that misinformation and disinformation is censored. They said that the First Amendment, or they were specifically talking about Elon Musk, and they said that they were going to teach him that the First Amendment is a privilege, not a right. And I want you all to remember three things, three rules. One is that when you give a government a power, it will never voluntarily relinquish it. Second rule, that if you give him a government a power, it will ultimately abuse that power to the maximum extent possible. And the third rule is that nobody ever complied their way out of totalitarianism.
That's it, guys. That really is where we are at right now. And that is exactly what has brought together this crazy alliance. And I'm telling you, standing there in D.C., basically between the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument, and talking to thousands of people, many of whom were wearing MAGA hats while also holding RFK signs. That is the thing that can get us out of it. That is the thing that these people fear so much. So I started the day, we kicked off the day with me and Jordan Peterson, and later in the day, Jordan joined Russell Brand on stage, and I thought this would be a nice way to end today's show.
What's happening here is of immense international significance, as you know from watching how people around the world are, what would you say, looking to the United States in particular, particularly to defend free speech, because if it's ever defeated here, it's gone everywhere. And that would be a terrifying thing. And make no mistake, it's under true assault, because you don't have to concentrate on what's obvious if you're going to speak. You have to concentrate on what's contentious and disruptive. And there isn't anywhere on earth, and this certainly includes my home country, where the protections for that vital right are more thoroughly enshrined and deeply entrenched than they are in the United States. And seriously, thank God for that. It's so vital. It's so important.
The principle of self-centeredness, the principle of the ego, the principle of solipsism upon which this great culture is being steered towards. Not community and congregation, subsidiarity and individual authority, no, but some kind of Goliath, some beast slouches from Bethlehem to be born, some centralized creature that claims that it cares for you so much that it wants to protect your health, cares for you so much it wants you locked in your home, cares for you so much it wants you injected with medications that haven't endured proper or ethical experimentation, cares for you so much that it wants your children to eat addictive and addicting foods, cares for you so much it sees you as little more than larvae on a conveyor belt, leading you to a life of sickness and deception, surrounded by a 360 sphere of illusion, augured by those great investors in media. You'll note that George Soros just bought 300 radio stations. You'll know that Bill Gates invested $300 million in media donations in the last few years. Centralized control. We would never accept it if they came out face first and said it to us. We would oppose them then. So instead they tell us that they care. Instead they tell us that they love us. Instead they tell us that they're trying to protect the vulnerable. But today we must say to the state, to the globalist bureaucratic state, get your help off of us.
And that's just a portion of what was a really, really wonderful day. And I was honored to be part of it. And that is right. Do you think that they really care about you? Ronald Reagan, the 8 scariest words in the English language. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Like, do you think that they're here to help you? Is there evidence of that? Or could we maybe get together a ragtag bunch of people who don't have that much in common to bring us back to the things we do have in common, which are love of country and freedom and, crazy stuff. That is today's show. It is Rosh Hashanah starting tonight, which is the Jewish New Year, which particularly in light of events of the past year and even just of yesterday, I will be celebrating with the family. So we're pre-taping tomorrow's show and Friday's show. So we're doing a community Q&A, which will be up tomorrow. And I'm not even sure what's up Friday, but we have my interview with Jen Cohen is up Friday. She's really, really interesting girl, fitness and a whole bunch of lifestyle stuff. My full interview with Piers Morgan is up across platforms already. My interview, if you didn't see it on Monday, with Charlie Kirk is up, and part 1 with Grant Cardone, who's really great just on business and how to attain wealth and a whole bunch of other stuff. Part 1 is up right now. Full thing's up on Locals. Got a post-game show, RubinReport.locals.com in about 30 seconds. And we leave you with a bit more from last night's festivities. Goodbye.
In the arms of the angel, fly away from here, from this dark, cold hotel room. It's a crazy world.